In the dim light of a forgotten laboratory, a century-old experiment whispers its secrets. The year is 1914, and physiologist John Johnston is about to uncover a truth so disturbing, it will haunt the corridors of science for decades to come. His goal? To explore the survival capabilities of embryonic cells outside the womb. But as he transplants bovine embryo cells into sulfur brain tissue and eyes, Johnston has no idea of the Pandora's box he's about to open. The embryonic cells, far from withering as expected, display an alarming adaptability. They rapidly invade and consume the surrounding tissues, mimicking the growth patterns of cancer cells. This unexpected result forces Johnston to reevaluate the relationship between mother and fetus. We've long believed that the bond between mother and child is one of harmony and nurture. But Johnston's experiment reveals a far more sinister truth. The womb is not a sanctuary but a battlefield. Here, the fetus fights for survival, extracting as much nutrition as possible from the mother. The mother, in turn, must protect herself while providing for her offspring. It's a delicate dance of struggle and power. As we delve deeper into this dark revelation, we must ask ourselves, is the love we feel for our children truly selfless? Or is it merely a biological imperative, driven by the selfish desires of our genes? Further research unveils an even more chilling reality. A mother's reproductive strategy is driven by her genes, compelling her to bear multiple offspring to increase the probability of genetic replication. In this genetic arms race, each fetus yearns for as many resources as possible. The mother, through hormone secretion, regulates resource allocation to minimize her own losses. For the fetus, survival pressure leads to extreme measures. To prevent expulsion from the womb, it sends hormones to the mother's body, even deepening blood vessel connections. This is not just survival, it's a primal act of self-preservation. If the mother senses the fetus's demands are too great, she may cease nourishment altogether. This constant competition and struggle are impossible to ignore. As we ponder these unsettling truths, we must confront an uncomfortable question. Are our most cherished emotions nothing more than biological manipulations? The selfless love we thought we knew begins to look suspiciously like a carefully orchestrated genetic strategy. But the rabbit hole goes deeper still. As science progresses, more studies suggest that genes not only influence our physical state, but profoundly shape our interpersonal relationships and social behaviors. What we understand as love, compassion, and sacrifice may all be puppeteered by genetic logic to some degree. In the vast expanse of human history, our emotions and behaviors have been subtly molded by genetic selection and survival needs. We are the products of eons of evolutionary pressure, our very feelings fine-tuned by the cold calculus of genetic survival. As we venture further into the shadows of human nature, we encounter an even more unsettling truth. The emotions we hold dear, familial love, friendship, romantic passion, may not be as pure and selfless as we once believed. Instead, they might be elaborate constructs designed by our genes to ensure their own survival and propagation. Consider the phenomenon of maternal love, long held as the epitome of selfless devotion. When we examine it through the lens of genetic self-interest, a different picture emerges. From the moment of conception, the fetus and mother engage in a complex biological negotiation. The fetus, driven by its genetic imperative to survive, releases hormones that manipulate the mother's body, deepening the connection between them and ensuring a steady supply of nutrients. But the mother's body is not a passive vessel. It too is governed by genetic interests, balancing the needs of the current offspring against the potential for future reproduction. This delicate dance of hormones and resources is less a portrait of unconditional love and more a battlefield of competing genetic interests. As we extend our gaze to romantic love, the picture grows even more complex. The flutter of the heart, the rush of oxytocin, these sensations we associate with love may be nothing more than chemical lures, designed to draw us into partnerships that will maximize our genetic legacy. Consider the mating rituals of the animal kingdom. The elaborate dances of birds, the fierce competitions between rival males, all of these behaviors are driven by the relentless push of genes to replicate themselves. Are human courtship rituals so different? Our preferences for certain physical features, our attraction to particular personality traits, could these all be subtle nudges from our genes, guiding us towards partners who will help propagate our genetic lineage? Even friendship, that seemingly pure connection between individuals, may have its roots in genetic self-interest. Studies have shown that we tend to form closer bonds with those who share similar genetic markers. This genetic kinship theory suggests that by helping our friends, we may indirectly be supporting the survival and spread of our own genes. But perhaps the most chilling implication of this genetic puppetry is its impact on our sense of free will. If our deepest emotions and most personal choices are influenced by the silent urgings of our genes, how much of our behavior is truly our own? Are we merely sophisticated vehicles, carrying out the bidding of microscopic masters? As we grapple with these unsettling questions, we must confront the possibility that our entire emotional landscape, from the tenderest love to the fiercest hatred, may be nothing more than an elaborate illusion, a grand deception orchestrated by our genes to ensure their own survival and replication. Yet even as we peer into this abyss of genetic determinism, a glimmer of hope remains. For humans possess something unique in the animal kingdom, the capacity for self-reflection and conscious choice. While our genes may whisper their desires, we have the ability to question, to resist, to choose differently. As we delve deeper into the murky waters of genetic influence, we encounter a concept that challenges the very foundations of our understanding of human behavior. Richard Dawkins' gene machine theory. This provocative idea suggests that we are not individuals in the truest sense, but rather sophisticated vessels designed to carry and propagate our genes. Dawkins posits that genes are inherently selfish entities, using individuals as mere tools to ensure their own survival and replication. When viewed through this lens, even our most noble actions and deepest emotions take on a sinister hue. The sacrifices of a parent for their child, the loyalty between friends, the passion of lovers, all may be nothing more than elaborate strategies employed by our genes to perpetuate themselves. Consider the case of the prairie dog, often lauded for its apparent altruism. When danger approaches, a prairie dog will sound an alarm call, potentially drawing attention to itself and risking its own life to warn others. At first glance, this seems like a selfless act. But when we examine it through the lens of genetic self-interest, a different picture emerges. Scientists have discovered that prairie dogs are more likely to sound alarm calls when surrounded by close genetic relatives. By sacrificing itself, the individual prairie dog may be increasing the chances of survival for others who carry similar genetic material. In this light, what appeared to be selfless becomes a cold calculation of genetic preservation. This genetic calculus extends to human behavior in ways we may find deeply unsettling. The love a mother feels for her child, often held up as the purest form of affection, may be nothing more than a biological imperative to protect and nurture the vessel carrying forward her genetic material. The grief we feel at the loss of a loved one could be our genes mourning the loss of a potential avenue for replication. Even our choice of romantic partners may be less about love and more about genetic strategy. Studies have shown that we tend to be attracted to individuals with immune systems different from our own, potentially producing offspring with stronger resistance to disease. What we experience as the intoxicating rush of new love may be nothing more than our genes celebrating an advantageous genetic combination. But perhaps the most chilling implication of the gene machine theory is its impact on our concept of individual identity. If our behaviors and emotions are so heavily influenced by genetic imperatives, how much of what we consider our self is truly our own? Are our hopes, dreams, and aspirations merely the whispered desires of our genes? As we grapple with these unsettling questions, we must confront the possibility that our sense of self, our very consciousness, may be nothing more than an elaborate illusion, a grand deception orchestrated by our genes to ensure their own survival and replication. Yet even as we peer into this abyss of genetic determinism, a glimmer of hope remains. For humans possess something unique in the animal kingdom, the capacity for self-reflection and conscious choice. While our genes may whisper their desires, we have the ability to question, to resist, to choose differently. As we emerge from the shadowy depths of genetic influence, we find ourselves in a new twilight realm, the domain of memes. These cultural units of information, first proposed by Richard Dawkins, offer both a challenge and a potential escape from the tyranny of our genes. Memes, like genes, are replicators. They spread from mind to mind, evolving and adapting as they go. But unlike genes, which are constrained by biological inheritance, memes can leap across generations and cultures with startling speed. A catchy tune, a compelling idea, a powerful symbol, these can reshape societies in ways our genes never could. Consider the meme of romantic love. While our genes may push us towards reproductive strategies that maximize genetic spread, the cultural idea of love, with its emphasis on monogamy, sacrifice, and emotional connection, often runs counter to these genetic imperatives. The meme of romantic love has reshaped human societies, influencing everything from our laws to our art. Or ponder the meme of altruism towards strangers. From a purely genetic standpoint, sacrificing oneself for an unrelated individual makes little sense. Yet the idea of heroism, of laying down one's life for a greater cause, has become deeply ingrained in many cultures. This meme has the power to override our genetic self-interest, leading to acts of extraordinary courage and sacrifice. Even our concept of self is shaped by memes. The idea of individual identity, of a unique and coherent I that persists through time, is itself a cultural construct. Different societies have different concepts of selfhood, and these ideas shape how we perceive and interact with the world. As we navigate this complex interplay between genes and memes, we begin to glimpse a possible path forward. While we may never fully escape the influence of our genes, memes offer us a tool for resistance. By consciously cultivating and spreading beneficial memes, we can reshape our cultural landscape and, by extension, our own behaviors and perceptions. But this memetic revolution comes with its own dangers. Just as genes can be selfish, memes can be parasitic. Ideas that spread easily are not necessarily beneficial to their hosts. The meme of a catchy but annoying song, or a conspiracy theory that undermines social trust, can proliferate rapidly despite its negative effects. As we stand at this crossroads of biological and cultural evolution, we face a daunting challenge. How do we navigate the competing influences of genes and memes? How do we cultivate a cultural environment that promotes human flourishing while respecting the realities of our biological heritage? There are no easy answers. But as we peer into the murky future, one thing becomes clear. Our journey of self-discovery is far from over. The dance between genes and memes will continue to shape us in ways we can scarcely imagine. As we conclude this haunting exploration, we're left with more questions than answers. Are we truly the authors of our own stories, or merely sophisticated puppets dancing to the tune of our genes and memes? Can we ever truly know ourselves, or are we doomed to forever chase the illusion of selfhood? In the end, perhaps it is this very uncertainty that defines us. Our ability to question, to doubt, to peer behind the veil of our own existence, this may be our greatest strength. For in this questioning lies the seed of our potential freedom. As you ponder these unsettling revelations, dear viewer, remember, the greatest horrors often lie not in the darkness around us, but in the shadows within our own minds.